I recently replaced the alternator in my truck. I'm not going to give you a 20-minute long music video of me doing that. There's plenty of videos that give you the nuts and bolts how to do it. Very quickly, it is two 13mm bolts on the front bottom, one 10mm on the back top. Once that is loose, you're going to have to use a pry bar to pry the thing out of there because it's wedged in there pretty tight if you have a C1500 like this. Then you need to disconnect the ground, which is a 13mm wrench and 13mm ratchet, because the stud that ground is on, it might spin. Then you pop that electrical connector and you can put in a new one. Now you will need a wood block and a hammer or some kind of mallet to get it in there, because again, it's a tight fit. You have to use a pry bar to get it out. You're going to have to use a hammer to get it back in, but use that wood block so you're not banging directly on your new alternator. I had to use a pry bar to try and get the holes, the bottom bolts to line up exactly right, because you got to squeeze it in there, it doesn't just slide, and it's difficult to get it just right. But keep working on it, you'll get it. That probably took me the longest, just getting those bolts to line up, because they didn't want to line up. But they did. I'm done. Oh, important note, disconnect your battery first. And if you are having alternator problems, you need to make sure your battery is fully charged before you hook up the new alternator. I've never had a battery or alternator blow up, but always make sure they're fully charged before I put a new one in there. How did I know it was my alternator? Well, it took me a couple weeks to be sure. It started with every so often I would get a slow crank, and usually it's like, oh, that seems like the battery, but I had to replace my battery just 6 months ago, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't the battery. It made me think alternator, but it wasn't a consistent slow start, and that can probably be chalked up to when the vehicle is hot, your starter, like I think it's the brushes in the alternator, or whatever it is, or they expand under heat, and so there's a little bit more drag, so if your battery or your charging system is not fully charged, it adds that extra bit of drag where you have a slow start. And so what solidified it for me was just last week, I had stopped for about 10 minutes, cranked the truck back up, very, very slow to start. I kind of heard this sound, like this whining sound, and a little bit lower register than that. And also, my dash gauge, the battery is reading low. It usually reads about 13 or 14, because all your dash gauges read in the middle, so you don't have to think about them. This is reading low at 9 volts. So when I got it home, I got my multimeter. I checked the vehicle. It was reading 10 volts on the battery when it was running, or when it was off. When it's off, it should read about 12 or 13. When the vehicle is running, it should read about 14. So all those things together made me think, I think my alternator's bad. So I went to the auto parts store and got one. I went to O'Reilly's. I don't know where you go. O'Reilly's has, I don't know, they just seem better to me for some reason. If you've got a better recommendation of where to get parts, let me know. I really wanted the AC Delco alternator, but the stores don't sell that. They want to sell their home brand, their in-store brand. I didn't feel like ordering one and waiting 3 or 4 days because my alternator is going bad right now, so I need to replace it right now. Do let me know where you shop for parts. I mean, where is it? Advance, Auto, Advance, AutoZone, Napa, O'Reilly's, some other place. I'd like to know. Sometimes I go Rock Auto. That's only if I can wait a while to get those parts, because sometimes you need things now like I need things now. That is replacing the alternator. That's all there is to it, really. Once you get it back in, you connect the battery back up, boom, you're ready to rock. And so far, I've not had any issues. That whenever I work on my vehicle and you put everything back together, you kind of like have that trepidation of, does it work? Is it going to crank? Am I going to have any issues? And so one day later, no problems. One thing I did do, when you pop your hood, the hood kind of pops up so you can get your fingers under it. My hood was getting slow to do that. It wouldn't pop up. You'd have to kind of like shake it or hit it. All you really need to do is just, grease. See this? There's a latch right here. This latch, the hood catching it when it goes down. Just grease that latch, lubricate that latch, and that's what it was. These things, this truck's old, man. This may be my most favorite vehicle in the entire world, but it gets old, things wear out, so just grease it. Grease your hood latch while you're at it, so that it's nice and smooth and doesn't have any resistance. You can kind of see that, yeah, still a bit of spray lubricant there. That's okay, Give something for the dust to attach to. That is the new alternator. Got to make sure you get the belts on and off right. Luckily, my truck still has that belt diagram, which made it easy. But all in all, alternator is very easy to replace. I'm going to have this truck forever. I don't plan to stop. So you got to replace things when they go bad. And the alternator, that thing goes bad, it's going to be an issue. Now, sometimes your alternator just completely bites the bullet and you don't realize it. You may be driving and all your electronics stop working, or maybe your electronics are dim. My alternator was charging just enough to where things were still working. Even with all my accessories on, heat, lights, everything, I didn't notice any dim lights. I didn't notice, it wasn't quite pulling it down, but it's just low enough where it's creating an issue. Now it's solved. Thing gonna go for a while, and I'm pretty sure this alternator, I believe it went for 294,000 miles. That is quite a few, so I'm hoping I can get at least 100,000 out of this one. I've got that limited lifetime warranty, so I should be set, right? Let me direct you to this week's sponsor. You can see it right here. If you don't see anything, well, that's a clue. Have a great day.